Oh, and good evening. It's February 11th, 2025, and we're continuing our discussion collection in our Outside the Class series. This series, from the Bible Project, it covers the entire TaNaK, that Old Testament. On TheDustyFeet.com, in the Outside the Class section, those source videos are all set up for your review. Because the intent of Outside the Class is for you to listen to that in-class lecture first, yeah? The lectures, they can all be found on that playlist. Because we try to keep these to about 15 minutes. Because we'll make them easy to catch up on. So we're on a quest, scroll by scroll, book by book, a journey through this collection, but with a fun and maybe different twist on Outside the Class, on the Dusty Feet. And before we forget, if you find these kinds of podcasts useful, just please click the subscribe button. The reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that's when you click that like button, because it is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So in this series, right, we're going to cover the entire TaNaK, the entire Old Testament. But we're going to do it in the original order of the collection, the Hebrew Scriptures order. So as we've already passed the first 5, things could get interesting as we roll on. Remember, the videos we're going to be discussed, they're just the tip of the iceberg. They are designed to start the discussion. They're part of a learning series that I highly recommend, and they can all be found on the Bible Project website. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things. Answers? We'll see. So, Judges, Shoftim, this is our part 4. So last week, we ended with Shamgar, right? Just one verse. Yet I expect it was very impactful for them because it had a tangible impact on those people in that day. It was one verse for us. But then we turn the page to chapter 4. The cycle is ready to start again. Chapter 4, verse 1. Then the sons of Israel again did evil in the sight of the Lord after Ehud died. So this sounds familiar. I think it's going to continue to sound familiar, but I think it also is so familiar because I think we, as group and individuals, maybe will be in these cycles still today. But verse 2, it should remind us that God has creative ways of dealing with us, ways that maybe we might not be willing to admit at the time or even understand at the time. That's verse 2. And the Lord sold them into the hand of Jabin, king of Canaan, who reigned in Hazor, and the commander of his army, Sisera, who lived in Haroseth Hagoyim. So the sons of Israel cried to the Lord, because he had 900 iron chariots, and he pressed the sons of Israel severely for 20 years. So this is going to be our first real foray into a female leading the way. So I think it's very much worth a look. Because in verse 4, now Deborah, a prophetess, the wife of Lapidoth, was judging Israel at that time, right? She used to sit under the palm tree of Deborah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the sons of Israel came up to her for judgment. So I find texts like these, and I think we're going to see it continue throughout Scripture, that we're going to see things that are going to cause us to struggle with our typical stereotypes. Yeah. Because we like to overlay what we think should happen, how it should play out, how things should be different than they were in the past, at least the way we think we see them. But I think we should look at these as this is what happened, and then this is how it played out. But that's not for any kind of judgment on our part, but it's merely to try and see them in their time and their circumstances. So as far as writing a story or doing a movie in Hollywood, we have this little interaction between Deborah and Barak, which is interesting. I mean, these stories are about these people, how they did play out, and how maybe we can view the how and maybe even the why of why they responded the way that they did. Because we know from the previous verses that she's already been acknowledged as this person from whom they are getting judgment. But I think maybe we need to take a little quick reminder, right, that judgment, it's guidance. It's guidance in the ways that they should be living, should be behaving. This is not her sitting on a hill, pointing out everything that people are doing wrong. I mean, that she's actually sitting there, pointing to people as they walk by, said, you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this wrong, and you're doing that wrong. No. We have them coming to her to help resolve things that need to be resolved. She is the person that was appointed by God to be in this judgment position. They know it. They're coming to her under the trees. But then we get her interaction with Barak. It's an interesting little interaction. I wonder how each of us would read this and how we would envision it playing out in front of our heads, right? So now she sent and summoned Barak, the son of Abinoam from Kadesh Naphtali, and said to him, behold, the Lord, the God of Israel, has commanded, go, march to Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men from the sons of Naphtali and from the sons of Zebulun. God said, I will draw out to you Sisera, the commander of Jabin's army, with his chariots and his many troops to the river Kishon, and I will give him into your hand. Then Barak says to her, if you'll go with me, then I'll go. But if you'll not go with me, then I'm not going to go. And she said, I'll surely go with you. Nevertheless, the honor shall not be yours on the journey, as you are about that you're going to take, for the Lord is going to sell Sisera into the hands of a woman. Then Deborah arose and went with Barak to Kadesh. Spoiler alert, we're going to be getting a waffling with the instructions a bit later, right? Chapter 6 and 7. But in that one, it's going to be with the judge himself. Okay, so let's go on. Then continue reading chapter 4, because you're going to read another story that's right off of a Hollywood script. We have battling ensue. Somebody gets routed in battle, and someone runs away to hide. The leader. So Sisera, he seeks refuge with a woman that he believes is an ally. She isn't. Because the story ends with that promise that Deborah had made about a woman, but it's not Deborah, and the ending is not pretty. It's Jael, Heber's wife. Well, she doesn't seem squeamish. So as the cycle seems to be playing out, it's supposed to say that at the end of chapter 4, the ongoing battle continues. We're pressing forward. Kings are conquered. The victory won. Again, we turn the page and you're in Judges chapter 5. And chapter 5 is a song. So I guess in Scripture, because we see it often, we see songs, right? But I wonder if we think it means what we think it means. Because sometimes I wonder if songs are maybe another name for an elaborate poem, maybe more like an elaborate storytelling, where this is meant to be repeated this way for all to hear for generations. Today, we have music. It's sound. It's attached to everything. Voices are attached to those musical tunes. I recently listened to an opera. I love listening to those. And listening to these vocal artists, their techniques and their skills, it's mind-blowing to me. But true to myself also, it's for myself that all of that was all sang in a language that I did not understand. And yet, I could still feel the emotion, the joy, the turmoil of the story as it unfolded. You can hear it. But I'm not sure if these songs that they're singing are like we would think of a song today. They would say the song, maybe it was heralded. This particular one, between Deborah and Barak, they sang this on that day, right? The day after. So I wonder, as I'm listening in my head, and you probably still really can't get out of your head that there still could be some kind of music attached, that then this would be maybe a lovely duet between Deborah and Barak. And then during this song, we have a guest artist that jumps in. We have a messenger from God. Some of you, when you're reading on some of your translations, might read angel, right? But we know that's a messenger from God. We've also noticed, really, where messengers are seen as people, right? Not the imagery that we have that we think of angels being white-robed, glowing, floaty wings. They're really much more just like people. But this guest artist comes on the scene, jumps in the vocals. Again, with this picture today, you can almost hear it. Because I know we have it in our heads still that what's going on. We can hear this event happening. But I just wondered if that, maybe the song sounded like it did because it doesn't seem in our way today, by reading it, at least it doesn't seem in English, to have that kind of musical flow, right? We don't have a rhyme, yeah? But we need to be fair to Hebrew. I mean, this, in Hebrew, it might be more lyrical, yeah? There's an author, Robert Alters, who has translated his biblical version. But I believe he started with the Psalms and the Proverbs. And what he did was capture the word he used, I believe, was cadence, right? The flow of the Hebrew text was lilted through. He tried to bring it over to English, and it's still giving justice to the original text, right? His translations of the Psalms and the Proverbs, they're excellent. Now that he has the entire TaNaK, I suspect that maybe the text might seem with some more ebb and flow. Yeah, we have difficulty trying to capture the fullness of any foreign language. So we just need to keep that in mind. Oh, and the link to his translation is down in the description below, okay? But that drives me to the thought of it being a story, right? A way to tell the story, a way to remember the story. Like we're reading it, maybe rather hearing it, and we're capturing what they said, the story, maybe with music playing in the background, right? Either way, I still highly encourage you to read chapter 5. Put whatever you want in your head whilst you read it. If you're convinced it's a song, go ahead, but you'll find out still that there's a lot being sung, right? There's a lot in there. There's a lot to share. Anyway, end of chapter 5. We have Judges 5:31. And the land was undisturbed for 40 years. Then, as we expect, chapter 6 begins with, and then the sons of Israel did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord gave them into the hands of Midian. 7 years. So, next week, we can open the discussion with the Midianites, introduced to our next judge. This judge is one that we've discussed on the Dusty Feet. Gideon. We will see if our views on Gideon might differ slightly. So, thanks for being with us tonight on another Outside the Class with the Scroll of the Judges on the Dusty Feet.